Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh, baby. What is up, Buffalo fanatics? Wednesday night, and it can only mean one thing. It's the mother effing smoke break live with you here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel, and it's so good to have you in off a very, very busy NFL week, and of course off a rebound W for the Buffalo Bills at home on Halloween over the Miami Dolphins off the bye. One that, of course, we could have pretty much put in the W column prior to playing it. Now, the one thing I think we would not have guessed is that the game would have been as tight as it was, especially in the first half. Bills go to half against the Miami Dolphins at 3-3. And my good God, was that not some of the most boring football you have ever witnessed in the first half? It was beyond infuriating. Now, coming off of that Titans loss, having to sit on that for 2 full weeks, it was tough. And I think all of us were expecting the Bills to come out at home off of the bye, off of that gut-wrenching loss, and blow the doors off Miami like they did back in week 2. This was no 35-0 victory like the Bills had over the Miami Dolphins the first time they saw them. This one did not come easy. Now, I never once felt like the game was in doubt. Then again, I never felt like the game was in doubt against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look what happened there. Obviously, Pittsburgh and Miami, apples to oranges. I understand that. But it was more of being frustrated with the Bills than it was being frustrated at the fact that they could potentially lose the game. There was never a thought, I think, anybody's mind, that the Bills were going to wind up losing that game. The frustrating element was you're off of that terrible loss. You're off of the bye. What you had already done to this Miami team in week 2, all the drama that's surrounding that organization this past week, the Deshaun Watson rumors, everything circulating Tua in his career and where he stands with the Miami Dolphins. It just felt like it was the Bills game to get back on track. And when I say back on track, I mean blowout. That's what we were all expecting. It was far from it. It was far from it. But hey, a win is a win. And let's get into this game from the jump. The beginning of the game was super frustrating because to me, listen, I hate attacking play calling. Okay. I'm a 24-year-old with a microphone and a computer who has a ridiculous passion for the Buffalo Bills. I am not an offensive coordinator. I'm not a coach. And as I've said on here multiple times, I'm never going to pretend to be anything close to that. I'm never going to pretend like I know X's and O's like the guys up in the booth calling the plays. With that said, the first half for the Buffalo Bills left a lot to be desired on offense. This team cannot run the football. Now, I think at this point in the year, heading into week 9, the halfway mark of the season, every team has shown that they have an Achilles heel somewhere within their team, whether it's on offense, defense, you name it, every team's got one. Right now, for the Buffalo Bills, the run game is definitely up there as their biggest Achilles heel. Yet they would not shy away from it in the first half. It seemed like every other play was a halfback dive for 0 to 2 yards. And I just don't know how many times you have to run that play for no gain to understand that it's just not going to work. And it just seemed like it was happening over and over and over again. they cannot run the ball. Once again, Josh Allen leads the team in rushing, and it wasn't even close. He was almost double the second leading rusher. Devin Singletary with 28, Zach Moss with 19, Josh Allen, 55 yards. They all carried it nearly the exact same amount of times. Josh Allen with 8 carries, Singletary with 7, Moss with 8. Just to go to show you the discrepancy between Josh Allen and his running performance and the 2 running backs currently on the Bills starting rotation, Josh Allen was running for just shy of 7 yards a carry. Singletary at 4, Zach Moss in this one, a bleak 2.4 yards per attempt. It's not in the realm for this Buffalo Bills. And look, that's fine. You can't be great at everything. Last year, the Bills were not great on defense. They still made it all the way to the AFC Championship. This year, they are great on defense. The similarity between this year and last year, they couldn't run the ball last year either. But you don't have to continue to do it, especially against the Miami Dolphins, especially against a team that Josh Allen, throughout his career, has utterly dominated. Over the last 7 games, look at the stats. It's essentially Brady against the Bills throughout the last 20 years prior to him going to Tampa Bay. It's ownership. As we call him, Josh Allen is daddy when we talk about the Miami Dolphins. We've all seen the meme on Twitter of Josh Allen nursing the dolphin in the water. And for good reason. That's what he does. He owns the Miami Dolphins. And I think in that particular circumstance, let him show that he owns the team. He ironically enough, 35-0 was the week 2 score. In this one, 26-11. And the only reason the Bills got to 26 was because of a late pick by Tua that resulted in the Bills scoring on 4th down because they weren't able to run the clock out unless they got that first down, which, by the way, if you're a betting man, covered the spread. And as they say, good teams win, great teams cover. So the funny thing here is the Bills did not play particularly good. It didn't feel like they blew out the Dolphins, yet they were, I think the line the morning of the game was 14 and a half. They win by 15. So, Vegas tells you, look, the Bills are 2 touchdown favorites here. And if you cover that spread, that usually means you're doing something right. And even though it felt like the Bills didn't do a whole hell of a lot right on offense on Sunday, they still cover that spread. But the funny thing here is the game in which the Bills won 35-0 against the Dolphins in week 2, and this game 26-11, both on paper look dominant. Both on paper look like blowouts. I didn't think the Bills played particularly well at all week 2 in that 35-0 victory. Didn't think the Bills played particularly well in this victory. Yeah, on paper, it shows the opposite. Now, in the 35-0 game, you would figure Josh Allen had the better statistical game. Actually, it wasn't even close. Josh Allen had a far better game in this outing than he did in the week 2 performance. Week 2, Allen was 17 of 33 for $179, only 5 yards an attempt, 2 touchdowns, and had a pick. That was good for a rating of 72 or 75.2. Josh Allen rose his quarterback rating in this one up a full 25 points. He was up to 100.2. 29 of 42, no picks for Josh Allen in this one. 2 touchdowns through the air and the rushing touchdown to give him his 28th rushing touchdown in 50 games. It's almost insane what we see out of Josh Allen in the run game and how overlooked it is. It's not like Josh Allen and his effectiveness in the running department is the main thing you focus on when you discuss Josh Allen. Usually that's something you refer to with Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. I mean, Josh Allen is as good as it gets when it comes to running the ball and putting it in the end zone. And not only has he been putting it in the end zone religiously throughout his young career here, but I mean, he's leading the team like we just saw on Sunday in rush yards. And he also had a few first downs through the run game that were crucial in this one. He had a 34-yard rush in this game, nearly triple the longest rush that Devin Singletary had, and nearly 5 times the length of the run in which the longest that Zach Moss had on Sunday. So you think about Josh Allen and you think about the performances that he's put out this year, and you look at these two games, the two that obviously look like blowouts. He hasn't particularly had his greatest game, but you would think in week 2, the stat line would look a lot more favorable for him than this one. But he actually wound up having what I thought to be a pretty decent game as it went on. The first half was not good. It just seemed like nothing was open. As I mentioned earlier, the run game was continuously trying to get going. It never did. Everything seemed short and intermediate, either the length of the line of scrimmage or right in front of it. And it just didn't seem to work. Now, I think the reason that didn't work and the run game didn't work is because the offensive line, their Halloween costume on Sunday was just a brick of Swiss cheese. It was non-existent. The offensive line was non-existent on Sunday. Even on the touchdown pass that Josh Allen had to Stephon Diggs, did you see how much pressure he was under? He had to get rid of that ball like that in a millisecond. Great throw, great catch, great way to read the rush. But Josh Allen was under pressure all day. The run game never got going. And that's the other liability here. And I think that, of course, is why the run game is not going to be able to ever get to a point where it's going to be a X factor for this Bills team. Not until the offensive line gets figured out. But the overall point here, through the run game, the line, we know what works with this team. And that, of course, is throwing the football. There's very few teams, if any, who do it better in the NFL. And the one thing that I think elevates this passing game above all is the utilization of Cole Beasley. I've said this a million times. When you get Cole Beasley involved, it seems to open up everything else because he brings to the table what the others do not. His middle of the field presence is some of the best in the NFL. It's no secret as to why he was an all-pro slot receiver just a season ago. And he's been nowhere this year. And I think it's very ironic coming into this week with the trade deadline being yesterday. There were a lot of talks about should the Bills move Cole Beasley. Now, I understand Cole Beasley, he's not a Pro Bowler. He's not the greatest wide receiver to ever take the gridiron. But he's a crucial part of this Bills team. And when you get him involved, you see the offense elevate itself to a much higher level than when they don't. And finally, Cole Beasley had his breakout game. And I thought above anything else that happened in that game, that was the one thing that stood out to me the most. And it was the one thing that propelled the Bills to the victory. I don't know if the Bills would have won as comfortably in the end as they did if it wasn't for Cole Beasley. He was a massive part in the ability of the Bills getting down the field when they couldn't. In the first half, the Bills could not get down the field. They didn't get into the red zone once. Finally, they got things motoring, and that was a big part of that was due to a big part from Cole Beasley. 10 catches, 110 yards, a 20-yard reception, and Allen was looking for him all game. 13 targets. That was by far the most out of any receiver on the field. 6 more than Diggs, who was second at 7. And out of the 29 completions Josh Allen had, over a third of them went to Cole Beasley. And I just thought it was great to see him back in a game where, let's be frank, they needed him. They could not move the ball. Obviously couldn't run it. And for some reason, things in the first half were not clicking through the air either. They just could not get down the field. And finally, after weeks here of wondering, what's going on with Cole Beasley. I mean, there were rumors, are they not getting him involved because they want to get rid of him? Is it the off the field stuff? Whatever. I have no idea. But you see what the offense is able to do when they get him involved, and that's move down the field. And finally, when they were targeting him and when they were getting him the ball, they were able to get down the field, finally get in the end zone a couple of times and salt this one away. But it wasn't even close statistically from Beasley and the rest of the team. I mean, 110 yards, no one else cracked 40. And, that itself might not be something to be happy about. You know, you don't want to see with the amount of offensive talent the Bills have in the wide receiver department, you don't necessarily want to see Diggs and Davis and Emmanuel the variety of guys that the Bills have. And obviously Dawson Knox was out. I mean, you would like to see those numbers be higher, but I was satisfied with the fact that Cole Beasley finally had his breakout game. I think it was necessary not only for the team, I think it was necessary for him. And a lot of people were talking down on Cole Beasley throughout the past week. I don't want to say it was in a malicious manner. It was just in a manner of, you know, how important is he to this team? I think he's massively important to this team. And, you know, I would consider extending him way before I considered dealing him. And I don't think it was ever even in the minds of Brandon Beane and the Bills organization. But of course, it was a hot button topic on Twitter. And that just seems to be Cole Beasley in general. Cole Beasley, Twitter, it's like kerosene and a flame. You know, it's just, it doesn't ever seem to bring anything positive. But finally, the one thing that matters, getting it done on the field, we see that from Cole Beasley on Sunday. And it was great to see. Defense looked great. Now, they got ran on a decent amount in the beginning. But the one thing you got to love about this team on the defensive side of the ball is they bend but don't break. 11 points. I mean, there's a reason the Bills right now have the best point total on defense in the National Football League. They don't allow many points. That's why it was a very shocking outing against the Tennessee Titans. I was not expecting them to put up the amount of points that they did. I was not expecting them to move the ball in the Bills defense the way they did. Then again, they have an asset in Derrick Henry that's unlike any other asset in the NFL. I'll touch on that situation in a minute and how that all will factor into the playoff picture, because that is a massive, massive loss for the Tennessee Titans. And frankly, I think it completely flips their aspirations of winning the AFC and going the distance in the playoffs on its head. Massive loss for the Tennessee Titans. But, you know, overall, this Bills-Dolphins game, uninspiring is the word I would use to describe it. I don't think anybody was overly impressed with anything that the Bills did. Like I said, I like what I saw out of the defense. I think it might have been Tre'Davious White's best game. He looked fantastic, locked down, and man, did he seem fired up. Anytime the ball went in his direction and he made a play, he was celebrating it. And I love that. You know, it seems like ever since Tre'Davious White had his breakout season, he kind of falls under the radar a little bit. You don't hear him get talked about as much. Tre'Davious White had a terrific game on Sunday, and I love what I saw out of him. Micah Hyde, once again, I mean, what more can you ask out of what him and Poyer are doing in the back there? Playing terrific defense. And, you know, I mean, it is the Miami Dolphins. I understand that. But what we've seen out of this Bills defense consistently throughout the year, that's the one thing it's been. It's been consistent. The only outlier was the Titans game, and I am purely confident in the fact that the reason the Bills defense was never able to adjust is because they allowed Derrick Henry to get that 75-yard touchdown rush, and things were just never the same. They had to be weary of that. The rest of the game, it completely blew things open. The Bills D was never able to recover. So I think, you know, if anything here, a massive bounce back game for the Bills D. Anytime you allow 11 points or less. I mean, and the Bills have done that numerous times this year. That is incredibly difficult. You know, it doesn't matter. I mean, look at the Jets. It does not matter who you're playing. The New York Jets with Mike White, who for all we know was working at Sunoco 2 weeks ago, puts up 34 points against a Cincinnati Bengals team who we all thought could potentially be a dark horse in the AFC towards the one seed, or being a complete nightmare in the playoffs. And things in the NFL right now, I mentioned this last week, and things just got even weirder over this past weekend. And it almost calmed me down after what I saw on the field from Buffalo. Because I can't lie, that was a frustrating game. It was a frustrating game. And it was very weird that I felt the same way for the most part during the week 2 matchup. It was frustrating. Yet again, you look at the score, you look at the box score, and no one will ever remember that game being frustrating because it doesn't look like it had any reason to be. They were blowouts. But they didn't play very well, and I was expecting a lot more. I think everybody was, and especially in that first half, you were wondering where the hell the Bills' offense that we have come accustomed to watching was. But then it hit me as I watched the rest of the games throughout the weekend, and I look back on the Thursday night game, Packers-Cardinals. This league is great for a reason. And the reason the NFL is so great is because it truly is any given Sunday. It truly is next man up. And the parity within this league is unlike any you find anywhere else. That's what makes it so great. And you look at what happened this past weekend, and teams who you thought would be dead in the water get victories. And it makes no sense. And you look back at what they've done throughout the year up until that point, and you cannot make heads or tails of it. It does not make any sense. Let's start on Thursday night. Packers-Cardinals. The Packers were essentially missing their entire offensive roster. They were missing almost every single starting wide receiver. And they went into Arizona in prime time against a team who had not lost a game the entire season, and they win it. I don't think anybody thought the Packers were going to have what it takes to beat Arizona on Thursday night with the lack of talent that they had on the offensive side of the ball due to injuries. They get it done. And then we get into Sunday, and I don't have any explanation for what we saw on Sunday. What we saw on Sunday, it leaves you at an utter loss for words. I just touched on this. Mike White. Zach Wilson is down. Has not been playing very well. They have not been able to move the ball, frankly, at all. The Jets, they're the Jets, right? So you look at this game, it's Bengals-Jets. And you're thinking to yourself, well, duh. Every dollar I have in my back pocket's going on the Bengals. Mike White leads the league in yards this weekend. Mike White. And they beat a Bengals team 34-31 who just trounced the Baltimore Ravens. It doesn't make any sense. Then you got the Cowboys. Sunday night. Dak Prescott not playing. Cooper Rush. Central Michigan. Shout out the Chippewas. My sister went there for a couple years. Dad's watching. He's a big CMU guy. Loves Cooper Rush. And with a name like that, how could you not? But good God, did you have any faith in Cooper Rush going out and beating a pretty decent Minnesota Vikings team? Not only did he win the game, he won it for them late. And they get the job done. And then maybe the most shocking of them all, although I will say the Mike White thing, I got no words for that. But arguably the most shocking of them all, Trevor Siemian outduels the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. Jameis Winston goes down. Trevor Siemian steps up to the plate and leads the Saints to 36 points to knock off the Bucs. You have 3 backups over the weekend that had no business winning the games in which they won, and they do. And you look at the opponents that they beat, and all 3 of them are solid. More than solid. The Bengals up to this point have been more than solid. The Bucs are the reigning champs, and the Vikings are a solid team who have lost many close games. They have a great offense. They're never going to be out of a game. I don't want to ever bet against the Minnesota Vikings because you just never know what you're going to get. But you have 3 teams with backup quarterbacks who beat 3 superior opponents, and it makes absolutely no sense. So you come back to the Bills game, and you think to yourself, didn't play well at all on offense. Defense, they did play well, but they had their struggles throughout this game. And let's face it, if a ball does not get snapped off Mike Gesicki's butt, which I mean, that just, if that's not in a nutshell of how bad the Miami Dolphins are, that was essentially the butt fumble from Mark Sanchez. Do you know how hard it has to be to time up that bad of a play and have it happen the way it did? The timing of it all. I mean, that is a microcosm of how god awful the Miami Dolphins are. You are in the red zone. You are playing a team that has utterly dominated you the last several seasons. You have a chance to take the lead at half, and you snap the ball off your tight end's ass while he's in motion. If they actually tried to do that, it would be tougher than actually doing it the way that they did. It's not, I know it looked like a common mistake. There's a reason you've never seen it before. It just doesn't happen. So you have to remember, the Dolphins should have taken the lead into half, could have scored a touchdown if that snap went off. Who the hell knows? So I'm not going to say that this was the best defensive performance out of the Bills, but like I said, they bend, don't break. They rarely let you score. And hey, oftentimes the luck needs to be in your favor in this league if you want to tally wins in the left side of the column. And listen, anybody who's been a fan of a team that has gone the distance, they will tell you they have had their fair share of luck. Now, I'm not saying the Bills need luck to beat the Miami Dolphins. I'm just saying sometimes you got the lucky horseshoe up your ass. And in my opinion, that was a very, very lucky play for the Bills that could have changed the game. Do I think the Miami Dolphins would have won had that ball not went off Mike Gesicki's ass? No. But it would have been a different game for sure. And the Bills are forcing turnovers way more frequently than they did last year. That to me is the biggest takeaway from this defense. Not only are they holding teams to next to no points, they are turning them over frequently. And then, of course, the defensive line has been much, much better than we could have ever thought, especially compared to just a season ago. But you look at what the Bills did, it was not impressive. Nothing about that game you walk away from and think any more about the Bills than you already did. If anything, you thought a little bit less. Yet they won 26-11, a divisional game. And you take that back and you look at what goes on around the league, and it's super tough to stay salty about a win. Because I'm sure every single person watching this right now at some point throughout that game was like, what is going on? I mean, it was brutal. It was like watching paint dry. Nothing was going right in that first half. It just was not a good game by Buffalo. Now, towards the end, they did seem to get things going a bit more, shook the rust off. Finally, were able to get in the end zone a couple times. Defense forced a couple turnovers. You get the result that you do. But nothing about that game was impressive. But it was a win. And you look at what happened throughout the weekend. You look at what's happened the last several weekends. And at this point, with the landscape in which I have seen from the NFL this year, that's what you got to just be okay with it. Because right now, when you look at the AFC, despite the fact that I don't know if the Bills have played their best game yet. I really don't. I hope they haven't. I mean, obviously, we would say it was the Kansas City game. But then again, look what Kansas City has laid out on the table. Was it? I don't know. I would like to think the Bills have not played their best game yet, because I don't know if they have. But they're really the only team in the AFC who has any legitimate chance to go the distance that has not gotten smoked this year. They've had one slip up. They've had one bad game that resulted in a loss, and that was the Pittsburgh game. And that really just came down to a block punt. They didn't get run out of the building. Their game against Tennessee was not bad. They put up 31 points, and they were a Josh Allen misfire on a snap and, hitting the hole away from getting that one done. You cannot chalk that one up as a bad loss or a bad game. It was a bad game against Pittsburgh, and it was the only bad game they had this year that resulted in an L. You look at the other teams that are considered to be contenders. The Tennessee Titans got absolutely destroyed by the Arizona Cardinals. The Baltimore Ravens absolutely destroyed the LA Chargers. The Bengals absolutely destroyed the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals lose to the Jets. And you look around here, the Bills they had a bad loss, and it was against Pittsburgh, who right now looking a bit better than I thought they were going to. They're winning terribly ugly. Nothing about them is sexy. Nothing about them is entertaining to watch. Nothing about it is fun. They're not half bad. At least not nearly as bad as I thought they were going to be. That's for sure. And at this point in the year, heading into the halfway point, if you can say with confidence, I don't think the Bills have played their best game yet, but at the same time, they're 5-2 and they have not had a bad loss outside of week 1, you have to take it. So when you have uninspiring performances like you do against Miami and you still cover the spread and win by over 2 touchdowns, I am as guilty of this as anybody. I watched that game. It was boring as hell, put you to sleep. You wondered if you were watching grass growing half the time. And then when it's all said and done, it's a double-digit victory. And you look around the rest of the league, and there's plenty of teams who would have killed to have had anything close to that over the weekend. I mean, you don't think the Bengals would give up anything in their power to go back in time and erase a loss against Mike White? Look at Cleveland, too. 10 points. The offensive talent on that team, we were told, and it's not that just we were told this, it didn't take any NFL expert to look at the Browns roster and say, damn, that's got to be one of the best rosters in football. They're not good. 10 points. And the Browns, who everybody thought was going to be right there with the Bills and the Chiefs and the top of the AFC, no, they're lucky they make the playoffs. Not good. It's just, to me, maybe it's recency bias. I have no idea. This season to me has just been absolutely insane. But the one clear thing to me, and this hasn't changed, I said this last week, and it's still clear to me, despite the fact that I don't think the Bills played very well on Sunday. There has never been an easier and more clearer path to the Super Bowl for the Buffalo Bills than there has been this year. Let's start with point 1 as to why I think this. Derrick Henry's down. And look, as a football fan, it sucks. I have Derrick Henry on my fantasy team, and obviously an utter beast. But you have to just be a very unappreciative football fan to not love watching Derrick Henry, because we are watching a future Hall of Famer. We are watching one of the best to ever do it. And I've said on this show, I don't think I've ever seen a running back in my lifetime like Derrick Henry, and I don't know if I ever will again. He is a specimen, one of one, and easily the best player in the NFL who is not a quarterback. And he's down for the year. Now, the reports say that he could potentially come back for the playoffs. But that's not going to help the Tennessee Titans when it comes to trying to get the 1 seed. And after the Bills had dropped one to Tennessee, and then Tennessee goes and beats KC, now they win over the Colts. Had Derrick Henry not have gotten injured, I would be legitimately concerned about losing the 1 seed to the Tennessee Titans. But with Derrick Henry out, I cannot with any confidence believe that this Tennessee Titans team will be the same. They are utterly reliant on Derrick Henry to get that offense in motion. It is the sole reason they beat the Bills. If Derrick Henry was not in that game against the Bills, I don't know how close it would have been, because the Bills offense was humming, and you take away what Derrick Henry did on the ground and the way he was able to open up that offense for Tennessee, you think that they get it done against the Bills in that Monday night game? No chance. No chance. And I just don't know if this Tennessee Titans team will be able to overcome a loss like Derrick Henry. And that right there should show you just how amazing of a player he really is. We're talking about a running back here, probably the most disposable position in all of sports. And with them losing Derrick Henry, I don't see them being close to the same team that they have been up until this point. So I'm ruling them out for the 1 seed. And I'm ruling them out. I mean, if Derrick Henry comes back for the playoffs, great. It's not a guarantee. How healthy is he going to be? Who knows? So I do not look at the Tennessee Titans today the same way that I did a week ago. And I don't think anybody does. And then, of course, Kansas City. What is going on in Kansas City? They are not good. I'll just say it. Kansas City is not good. They are a mid-tier team in this league at its current juncture at best. Look around the NFL. Look at the talent. Look what Look what these offenses are doing. Look what teams like the Bills are doing on defense in order to get things done. The Chiefs have maybe the worst defense in the entire league, and their offense it's not good. It is not good. And I, without a shadow of a doubt, thought, okay, look at the Chiefs. It's been tough sledding to begin the year here. But they're playing the New York Giants, the worst franchise in the NFL over the last, 7, 8 years, I think. Don't know the exact amount of time. Don't know the exact duration. But I believe the New York Giants have the worst record in the league over X amount of time. And, of course, this year, yet again, they're not good. They're the Giants, man. Not good. And you had to have thought, okay, it's a primetime game. The Chiefs have to get back on track in this one. They have to blow out the Giants. They need a statement win. Look at style points mean nothing in the NFL. This isn't the NCAA. Style points in the NCAA will bump you up. There's a reason the Cincinnati Bearcats are not in the college football playoff rankings this morning. They're not sexy. They're not Alabama. They're not Georgia. They're not Ohio State. Style points matter in college. They don't mean jack in the NFL. When it comes to rankings, when it comes to seeding, when it comes to getting the job done on the field and going the distance. They do mean something, though, when it comes to the eye test. Let's be real. That is a fact. As we can tell with the Bills on Sunday, 26-11. If you didn't watch the game, you thought the Bills dominated. You thought they looked great, this, that, and the other thing. None of that was true. None of that was true. Now, with the Chiefs, a blowout win would have done a lot for their morale and confidence, which seems to be non-existent at this point in time. I'll continue this rant in a second. Got some super chats that I got to touch on. First, Reed Levine, still waiting for the Bills to torch a team like we did to the Seahawks last year. A little scary, but I hope it's coming soon. I love that point, Reed. That game, that Seahawks game, to me last year was the one game I think where it was a massive eye-opener in regard to seeing this Bills team as a tier above where we used to see them. Because at that point, Seattle was not what they are this year. Seattle was a contender, an incredibly potent offense who, was one of the top teams in the NFC, and the Bills took it to them heavy. That offense went up and down the field against Seattle last year. I mean, that was a clinic. That looked like an all-star game, what the Bills did to Seattle last year. So that's a good point, Reed. I don't know if we've come close to seeing that this year. Then again, back to my point, we haven't seen that this year, and the Bills are 5-2. They've had almost every game this season where they've scored in the 30s, and their defense is shutting teams down. So maybe it's a good thing we haven't seen it yet. That's what I take from it. Then my man Jeff King, haven't seen you in a bit, Jeff. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the super chat, as always, Jeff, and thank you so much for tuning in. But the problem was the build up to the game. You yourself said, and I quote, "It's going to be grotesque." I did say that. It wasn't grotesque. It was a letdown, a W, but a letdown. We need to play better ball from here out. Henry, sad as it is, just opened the door for the Super Bowl. Terrific points left, right, up, down, and center here, Jeff. Let's start with my quote on saying the game would be grotesque. It was grotesque, just not in the way that I thought it was going to be. It was grotesque if you like watching entertaining football. If you enjoy entertaining football, that game was grotesque. You're right. And I thought about this prior to the show, Jeff. Week 2, everybody thought the Bills were going to beat the Dolphins. I don't think anybody thought it was going to be 35-0. Then, of course, in this game, bye week, off the loss to the Titans, what they had already done to Miami. Yeah, everybody thought they'd blow them out. A big fan of Pro Football Talk, and every week they do a podcast where they do their picks, and they'll do a thing where I do a segment where they take their best picks of the week, essentially a pick that they would take if they had a gun to their head and they had to get it right. And Mike Florio's was the Bills, and he had the same reasoning that I did, essentially, where it was just off the bye, off the Titans loss, what they had already done to Miami, and he said it was going to be a route like a grotesque route. So I think that has something to do with it. I think oftentimes when you are expecting a blowout, it almost never seems to happen. So that is a good point, Jeff, and I do agree with it. And at the end of the day, wasn't a blowout, but 15-point win. And I find usually for me, it takes a bit. During that game and a little bit afterwards, I'm just like, there's not a whole lot to feel great about in that one. Especially because you know your opponent and you know what you're capable of doing to them. But as I keep reiterating throughout this show here, you look at what these other teams are putting out on the field, oftentimes resulting in losses, and you can't stay upset. And then you look at the slate of games in front of the Bills. I mean, Jesus. I mean, good God. And that adds to another reason why the path is clear. But what you're bringing up here, Jeff, is what we had talked about a little bit earlier. Henry being out is sad. Yes, absolutely. It totally is. It's a total blow to anybody who enjoys the NFL, 100%. But it 100% has opened the doors even wider for the Bills to get to the Super Bowl. I would not want to see Derrick Henry again. Who the hell would? Do you think anybody wants to go up against Derrick Henry? You'd have to be a damn fool if you volunteered to go up against Derrick Henry in any setting. And him being out, like I had just said a few minutes ago, it completely alters the perception of this Tennessee Titans team, and I think it completely alters their capabilities of going the distance. I think that's just a fact at this point. The Tennessee Titans without Derrick Henry they're not the same team. Not close. Thanks so much again, Jeff. Really appreciate it, man. And thanks for tuning back in. Hope things are well. Hope to see you around here more often as well. Let's go back to the Chiefs. That to me, that game was one where you were overly confident the Chiefs would set the narrative the following day of, all right, slow start, but a game in which they should dominate, and they did. Let's pump the brakes before we roll them out. They were terrible. They were terrible. And if it wasn't for a bunk flag at the end, that was definitely a topsy-turvy call. Giants win that game. Mahomes threw a pick late in enemy territory. The Giants had picked it off in Chiefs territory. And, the game would have been completely different. Travis Kelce, nowhere to be found. Tyreek Hill, no longer the threat that he used to be. The loss of Sammy Watkins, how much has that changed this team? I don't know. Perhaps a lot, because they have not been the same at all on offense. And Patrick Mahomes, not looking good, man. Just not looking good. Point blank. And I understand his not good is probably better than the majority of other quarterbacks in the league. But of course, we are so accustomed to him being the second coming, and he's on the cover of Madden with Brady, and everybody had automatically penciled him in as maybe the next best of all time. And of course, he still has that opportunity, and a few weeks into one of his seasons is not going to rule that out just yet. But we are seeing that the Kansas City Chiefs are human. We are seeing that Patrick Mahomes is human. Oftentimes throughout the Bills' 20 years of losing to Tom Brady, I was convinced the dude just wasn't human. I still kind of am. Is Tom Brady human? If we found out tomorrow that Tom Brady was not human, would anybody bat an eye? Because that guy defies everything. Nobody beats Father Time except Tom Brady. He's beating everybody, and he's still beating Father Time. I don't know if he's human. And there's points in time where you watch Patrick Mahomes, and you're not sure if he's human either. He has shown his human elements this season. Perhaps no more than he did on Monday night against the Giants. That's a game you have to win with style points. I know it doesn't matter in any ranking, anything that counts, but it does matter. The morale is down bad in Kansas City right now. There's no confidence. For God's sake, you have Tyrann Mathieu calling their fan base the most toxic in the league. Good teams don't do that. Could you imagine the riot in Buffalo, New York, if anybody said that about the Bills fan base who was on the Buffalo Bills, let alone one of your best players? I wouldn't overlook that at all. And I know he came back and backtracked the statement. He tried to put the white out over it. You said what you said, man. And not only did you say it, you put it in writing on Instagram. That's where the Chiefs are at right now. And you barely squeak out a win at home against the New York Giants. So here I am, a spoiled ass Bills fan. Who would have thought in your lifetime you'd ever say that, right? Here I am, a spoiled ass Bills fan, pouting over a 26-11 win against the Dolphins, where the Chiefs can barely edge out a win against the Giants in a game that they desperately needed to get things back on track. I don't know what's going on with the Chiefs, and they are dodging a bullet this coming weekend. And I'll get into that storyline in a second. But before I do, always a pleasure to tell you about my friends over at manscaped.com, a proud sponsor of the Smoke Break and Buffalo Fanatics. And as you well know, they have the best men's grooming products in the land, but none better than the Lawnmower 4.0 with that awesome travel lock. I'm going to Columbus, Ohio this weekend. Hate the Buckeyes. And I'm going into enemy territory. Many of you don't know I'm a big Penn State fan. Lost over the weekend to Ohio State. It was expected. I'm off to there this weekend, and I'll have my Lawnmower 4.0 on me because I can throw it in my bag, travel lock, boom, we're gone. It's got that awesome LED light. You know I like to trim it up at night, of course. Tell you that every week. Nothing's changed. And the wireless charger. Best feature out of them all. Love the thing, and you will too. Go pick it up over at manscaped.com. Promo code Fanatics for a special discount on the Lawnmower 4.0 and all Manscaped products. Promo code Fanatics, manscaped.com. This story is insane. And honestly, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is getting enough flack for it. This is brutal. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. The beginning of the year, all the drama surrounding Aaron Rodgers, so much drama. Is he going to come back? Is he going to play for a different team? Is he going to retire? Is he going to go host Jeopardy? I mean, the list goes on and on. He wouldn't tell anybody anything, and he's playing cat and mouse games with the media. And, you know, I like Aaron Rodgers. I do. I mean, he's got a unique personality that I think is, you know, dry and sarcastic in an entertaining way. And my God, I mean, there's very few who have ever done it better on the field. And I have a lot of respect for Aaron Rodgers. Here is where I don't have respect for him. What has happened today and what he is doing to his football team, who he already had in a weird position coming into the year. Before the season, Aaron Rodgers was asked if he was vaccinated. And as we know, the vaccine in the NFL is not mandated, but they do everything in their power to make your life difficult if you do not follow the non-mandated COVID-19 protocol. Aaron Rodgers, the leader of the Green Bay Packers, one of the biggest icons in all of sports, one of the top names in football, one of the most recognizable guys. And when it comes to leadership, I mean, is he not older than Matt LaFleur? I mean, give me a break. You might as well be coaching the team at this point. The guy's wearing a helmet with a chin strap from 1935. I mean, we're talking about one of the GOATs in football and, you know, an icon, a role model. And he's asked if he got vaccinated. And listen, I understand everybody's got their takes on this and whatever, but in the NFL, if you get COVID and you are not vaccinated, you're screwed. And there's no position that you want that to happen to less than at the quarterback position. You cannot afford to lose your star quarterback midway through the year for something as trivial as that. Yet Aaron Rodgers in the beginning of the year was asked if he was vaccinated, and he said yes. He said yes. Today, Aaron Rodgers tests positive for COVID-19, and he's not vaccinated. He's going to have to miss 10 days, which in turn means 2 games, which in turn means he's missing the game against the Kansas City Chiefs this coming weekend. This, to me, is absolutely insane. Look, I understand guys in the league get the disease. I understand guys don't want to get the vaccine. You've heard me talk about that before. I'm not getting into that. You know my feeling on that. Everybody should have their own choice. I get that. To me, it comes down to the fact that he lied. And that is insane coming from a guy of Aaron Rodgers' stature, coming from a guy who is an ultimate leader, it seems, in this league. And now you're putting your team in a very tough spot with an incredibly tight race in the NFC right now. The NFC is much more competitive than the AFC, and I would not have thought that coming into the year, but it's true. There's a lot more talent, it seems, this year in the AFC or in the NFC than the AFC. It is going to be a dogfight at the end of the 1 seed, and the Packers are right there, and they're in the driver's seat. Him missing these next 2 games could be huge. I understand people in the comments here, plenty of vaccinated players have still contracted COVID, though. Look, I get that, Logan, 100%. I'm not arguing about the vaccine or the, your willingness to get it. I am simply talking about what happens to you in this league if you are not vaccinated and you test positive. The NFL is going to lay down the hammer. You're going to have to miss X amount of games in 10 days. And we have yet to see that happen to a player of the caliber in which Aaron Rodgers is at, especially with a coming game against the Chiefs, which was easily the game of the week this week. And I couldn't wait for that. And as a Bills fan, you're thinking, man, this could be the death punch for KC. You lose this week. Folks, I mean, we're at the halfway mark. I know it is mind-blowing, but we're at the halfway point. And if the Packers get it done, they bump the Chiefs to 4-5, and it's an uphill battle if they even want to smell the playoffs. And look at their schedule. It is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. So I just think that this story is insane, and I feel bad for Packers fans because I couldn't imagine. To me, if Josh Allen went down for that, it would suck. It would absolutely suck if you had to lose your quarterback for 2 weeks, especially when everybody was under the impression that he was immunized. Now, I understand it'd be a lot different if he was outspoken against it. I get that, and you're prepared for it, and you get it. I think that's what makes this story so interesting, is that everybody was under the impression that he had it. So that's to me, wild story. And I see this point here, and this is funny, Omega TV, that you said that. You said, no, he didn't. He said he was immunized because he did some weird treatment, not a vaccine. See, I thought about that too. When he was asked if he was, he said he was immunized. He never said that he had the vaccine or whatever. So you wonder if it was just a way of putting away the media on the question, which I get because, all these players are asked questions like that all the time. I just think you expect different from your franchise leading quarterback. That's the thing. So that to me is crazy, and it gives the Chiefs a much better chance to win this weekend than they would have had with going against Aaron Rodgers. But the Chiefs need that game. Absolutely need that game. Sticking in the AFC, no moves of note really at the trade deadline, and the Bills didn't do anything. I did not expect them to. Every year it seems somebody will tweet out online with a verified account, oh, look out for the Bills, sneaky move coming up. Never happens. The real big move, I guess you could say, was Von Miller to the Rams. I think that that's a big move for an LA team who just says, I don't care about draft picks. We're in a win now mode. Let's get it done and get proven players. So that was a big move for LA. But, there were rumors circulating that the Browns could move OBJ. Now there's rumors that they're going to cut him. Someone's going to pick him up. That story to me is fascinating. It's clear and obvious Odell does not want to be in Cleveland. And it's more obvious that it doesn't work in Cleveland. He's not been good at all with the Browns. And there's numerous storylines that have gone around between Baker and OBJ, and, the Browns are better without him. And, Baker having to force the ball to Odell makes him a worse quarterback. You got LeBron James going on Twitter. Look, I get it. Everybody loves LeBron. He's easily the most popular person on the planet. I don't care what LeBron has to say about Odell Beckham Jr., but everybody else seems to. And I get it because he's one of the most powerful human beings on the planet, especially when it comes to the athletic world. And he goes to Twitter and tweets free OBJ. And then OBJ's dad chimes in and essentially says that it's all Baker's fault that Odell has not had any production since he's been in Cleveland. So today, the Browns tell Odell Beckham Jr. he's not welcome at practice. Once again, anytime a story like this happens, I just always come back to, thank God I'm a Bills fan, especially at this moment in time. I've said this 1,000 times, and anytime something like this pops up, it just makes me reiterate it. That stuff it wouldn't happen in Buffalo. It would not happen in Buffalo under this current regime. It would not. And, you thank your lucky stars that Antonio Brown never made his way to Buffalo. And you thank God that Stephon Diggs, who I never had a doubt with, but many did, has come in and been an absolute role model and leader on this team, way unlike anybody else predicted. You see stuff like this. And, even with the Aaron Rodgers thing, as seasoned of a vet as he is, I don't think Josh Allen would ever mislead anybody like that. If anything, he would answer the question I think he would answer the question either bluntly, yes or no, or he would just say, I'm not going to get into that, which is more than fair on either side. He would never mislead. I don't think anybody on this team would. I mean, look at Cole Beasley, right? He hasn't misled anybody. He is very set into what he believes about that certain topic, and he's letting you know about it. I respect the hell out of that. I've told you I don't love him arguing with Bills fans on Twitter back and forth, but I respect his opinion, and I respect his ability to express that. But I don't think anybody on this team would mislead anybody. So you have two examples right there where you just come back to, you think about the organization that you root for, and it's world class in Buffalo. It's just world class. And drama like that is ridiculous. You got LeBron freaking James going on Twitter, free OBJ, then your dad. I mean, you look around the media circle surrounding NFL players these days, LeBron, and then the parents, and the siblings and the wives. I mean, look at, for God's sakes. I mean, poor Patrick Mahomes. I thought I'd never in my life say poor Patrick Mahomes. Could you imagine dealing with the BS that he's got to deal with off the field? They're having a brutal year. He's not playing well whatsoever. And you got to worry about your brother doing a TikTok dance on a memorial on the side of the field. You got to worry about your girlfriend or your wife arguing with KC fans online and making TikToks, calling people out. I mean, what in God's name? And how that hasn't been put to an end, I don't know. And I mean, the one person I know who's notorious for doing this is Tom Brady's dad, but I think that's hilarious because Tom Brady pays no mind to it. Anytime he's questioned about what his dad has to say, he'll rip on his dad, which I think is hilarious. You're thankful for I think there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason the people who are upstanding people surround themselves with other upstanding people, and you don't get that drama. And that drama, I'm telling you, people say it doesn't matter. I think it does. And I think if you got listen, I don't think Odell is not a top receiver in the slightest. He's just not. But he's a star. Odell is a star. And when you have a star that you have causing all sorts of ruckus online and you have to tell him to sit home, what would that be? What's that going to be like in the locker room if and when he comes back? Oh, hey, Baker, sorry, my dad says that you're the reason my career is completely tailspin. And we all know Baker Mayfield. I'm sure Baker will be like, hey, buddy, water under the bridge. No. That is not Baker Mayfield. So, as I say, if you want to hashtag anything, it's not free OBJ. It's hashtag thank God I'm a Bills fan. I always knock on wood on that because you never know. You just never know. And then last week, Z-Bot, what are your thoughts on Deshaun Watson going to the Dolphins? Everybody's saying that the move's in place. What did I tell you? I will believe it when I see it. And guess what? I didn't see it, nor did I think I would. That story has been a headline for what seems like an eternity now. And the end of the day, it was the right move currently for Miami. It was the smart move. I told you last week what I thought about that move. It is not a good look for the franchise at this current moment. Deshaun Watson needs to figure out his legal issues before I would ever take a chance on bringing him into my organization. And despite the fact that I think Miami would have done it if they could have, they didn't, and I think they're better off for it perception-wise. Definitely not talent-wise. Few teams would be. But I never thought that was going to happen. There's too much surrounding Deshaun Watson right now. Everybody wanted it to be a story because he is such a big headline right now. I think down the line, obviously he's going to get dealt somewhere. Miami's going to be the leader in the pack in that department. But, what good would it do Miami right now? You're 1-7. You're just abysmal. And if you bring Deshaun Watson in, is he even going to be able to play? If he does play, what does it matter? You're not going to the playoffs. It simply does not matter. And tack on to all of that, the insane media swarm you would have to deal with on a daily basis surrounding his legal allegations. So I think whether it was intentional or not, Miami dodged a bullet currently. And I think that if they take care of it down the line, once Deshaun Watson takes care of his personal matters, that's a different situation. But I just think it was too heavy of a situation for Deshaun Watson to get moved here before the trade deadline. If he was going to get moved, he would have been moved a lot sooner. I just believe that. I think it is obvious Houston wants to move him. It's obvious there's teams interested. So much needs to get worked around. And I think everybody was waiting for that to be the headliner this week. I was never anticipating it happening. It didn't. And then again, yet again, we have a trade deadline come and gone where you're always wondering if something big is going to happen, and very, very rarely does it ever. And then the other big storyline out yesterday, and this is just absolutely tragic beyond tragic for everyone involved. Henry Ruggs, he was charged with DUI. He was found double the legal limit, and he drove his vehicle over 30 miles an hour, something absurd, into the back of another person's vehicle, and it killed that person in that vehicle. Henry Ruggs, first receiver taken off the board last year for Las Vegas, promising future. And my God, it's one of those stories that you hear and you just go, what? I bring it up only because it's a massive story. But condolences to those who were affected. I couldn't even imagine. And for Henry Ruggs, to have all of that in front of you, to have all of that, success you've already obtained, a full career ahead of you. There was a gun in the car, double the legal limit. King Noble, here it is. Yeah, you're right. It was 156 miles. That's right. Now I remember. That's what I read. 156 miles an hour. I've never even come close to going that in a car. I don't even know what that would feel like, let alone being double the legal limit. I don't know what the story is there as to why that was even possible. But it ended in the worst of circumstances, and just a brutal, brutal story. And as Patrick says here, people think about, and I saw him, he got cut by Las Vegas, and people were like, why would you cut him? And I'm like, what's Las Vegas supposed to do? He just committed a felony. And as Patrick says here, you're facing 2 to 20 years there. So I don't know. I think Las Vegas's hands were tied. What were they really supposed to do in that situation? So not only, oftentimes when it comes to athletes, you're thinking about, well, was he ever going to play again? The bigger thought here is, what's going to happen in regard to those charges? So just an absolutely brutal story to all those involved. You hate to hear anything like that. And once again, condolences to everybody involved. And you just hope you never hear anything like that again. On that, on a much, I don't know, you can't ever really come back from anything like that. But I'll do my best to get into the upcoming games here for Buffalo, including this week on the road in Jacksonville against a team who has not won a game in North America this entire season. We'll touch on that in a second, right after this quick message from NordVPN.
Are you out of market, but the NFL Sunday ticket is just too expensive? Hey, this is Pierre the Kingpin from the Buffalo Fanatics, and do we have a deal for you? Watching all NFL games live while having the ability to watch the replay whenever you'd like is what makes the NFL Sunday ticket so popular. The issue is the pricing is just outrageous. Getting DAZN along with NordVPN will cut that price in half. Here are the details. Go to supportbf.com and sign up for DAZN. Then go back and sign up for NordVPN. Once done, just switch your VPN to Canada, then sign into DAZN. Now sit back and enjoy some football. It's the Kingpin, and I'm out.
I love that. I think that's so cool. I mean, I like I said last week, just utterly take for granted the location that I live in. Even when the Bills were like 7-9 every single year, they were on TV every single week. Never had to worry about it. When you're out of market, it's expensive and it's tough to watch the Bills, not with NordVPN and our special discount over at the bfvpn.com. If you're out of market, 100% check it out. I know all the guys here at Fanatics who are out of market, which is the majority of the boys here. They use it and they love it. Almost positive that's what Rico watches the games on too. So, and Pierre, and the list goes on and on. So, I mean, they're as big of fans as anybody. And if they're watching it on there, definitely consider it. Awesome stuff. So I touched on throughout the show here that, the path to the Super Bowl is just, it couldn't be more clear. And in my lifetime, it has never come close to being this clear. I don't want to say easy, but you've never had a better chance, it seems. Not only do you have the team in which the Bills have, which is the best of my lifetime, and it's the best since the Super Bowl team, but now you have Derrick Henry, who is down. I'm taking the Tennessee Titans out of it. The Chiefs are out of it. The other contenders that you look at, nobody has been as consistent as the Bills. Nobody's really been consistent at all. And our buddy, Nick Wright, and if you saw on Twitter, this definitely caught some fire when I tweeted out what I had heard on the Dan Patrick show yesterday morning. Nick Wright, common guest on the Dan Patrick show, and they like to poke fun at his Chiefs fandom while they can. I know him and Coward love doing that. Who the hell wouldn't? And Dan Patrick asks Nick Wright if the Bills are the best team in the AFC. And shockingly, Nick Wright said, quote, "Right now you have to give him credit for it." And his reasoning was that the Bills have been the most consistent team in the AFC. And it is 100% true. His point that he made is that, outside of the Pittsburgh game, every game has been consistent, every single one. And the result in that, nearly every time, other than for a Josh Allen slip, has been victory, has been a bunch of points being scored on offense and very little points being scored by the opponent. Consistency at its finest. Baltimore, where's the consistency? You absolutely destroy the LA Chargers and go on to get destroyed by the Baltimore Ravens, or the Cincinnati Bengals, excuse me. Cincinnati Bengals. Destroy the Ravens. You lose to the Jets. The Titans, not only do you lose Derrick Henry, but they also have lost to the Jets. They got absolutely destroyed by the Arizona Cardinals. And then, you look at other teams that are kind of on the back burner. I think New England is a lot better than I thought they were going to be. I don't look at them as a team that is going to be able to go all the way. Although I will say, I think the games against New England are going to be a lot tougher than I had anticipated. That is for sure. But even New England, they've had a loss this year that was, I forget exactly the game, that they've gotten just destroyed. And the Colts, that loss to the Titans really, really makes it difficult for them to reach the playoffs. You just look at the AFC, and then, of course, the Browns touched on them earlier, just nothing close to what we thought that they could be. The Steelers, if we played them again, I think we played them 100 times. The Bills win 99, and we've already lost the one. So I think the only team right now in the way of the Bills and their path to the Super Bowl is themselves. They are the only team right now that can beat themselves, I think, when it comes to making it all the way. I think right now, even though they haven't quite shown it the last couple of weeks, they are the most consistent team in the AFC. They are the most talented team in the AFC. They're the most well-rounded team in the AFC. They have the best defense in the league, the best offense in the league, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Right now, Josh Allen leading the MVP vote, which, by the way, you can crap on me all you want for it. I don't think Josh Allen has done enough this year to deserve being the front runner right now for the MVP, but he is. And I just think that kind of speaks to the overall landscape from the players that we have seen in the NFL this year. Derrick Henry goes down. I think he had a legitimate chance. Aaron Rodgers is going to miss a couple games here. That kind of puts him at a disadvantage. Tom Brady, really bad game last week. That bumps him down. And then you look and you're like, well, I don't know if Josh Allen really has done enough to prove himself as the MVP. But then again, has anybody else really done anything better? I don't know. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't know if Josh Allen has played an MVP performance. I just think that nobody else really has either. And I think that there's often a hierarchy that is involved here. And Josh Allen finished second last year. There's politics involved here. And I think, it's time in a lot of people's eyes to pass the torch to these young guns. And Lamar Jackson has one. Mahomes has one. And it just feels like Josh Allen at some point will get there. And right now he's leading the way. And take all that into account. Best D in the league. Best O in the league. Right now, you have the current MVP favorite. You are scoring 30-plus points at will, even when you're not playing the best. Defense forcing turnovers, getting pressure, holding teams to very little points on the scoreboard. And you take all of that and combine it with their schedule, which is just, we've talked about it a million times, but it's a massive factor when it comes to getting the 1 seed. And getting the 1 seed is a massive factor in making it to the Super Bowl. You're the only team now with a bye. It used to be the 1 and the 2 seed. As we know now, it's only the 1 seed. So you get that bye, and then you get both games at home. If you win the division at home, you get the AFC Championship at home. And the path to getting to the 1 seed, who's got it easier than the Bills? Jets, Jaguars this coming week. Jags this coming week, Jets the week after. The Colts, who have not been anywhere near what we thought they could be. The Saints, it'll be a tough game. Jameis is out for the year. I don't know what the deal is going to be there. Is Taysom Hill going to come back and play quarterback? Are they going to stick with Simeon? The Patriots twice. Those won't be easy, that's for sure. But the Bills will be favored in those games and expected to win. The Bucks, are the Bucks better than the Bills right now? I don't know if you can say that with much confidence. I think that's a very, very even matchup. It could go either way. It's in Tampa, but I don't think the Bills would command a spread that would make you think that they're any massive underdog in that thing. If anything, I think that game would probably be -3 in favor of the Bucks, and that's only because it's in Tampa Bay. Then the Panthers started off hot, just nowhere to be found. Falcons, not good. And then the Jets again, not good. And starting this coming week, you got Jacksonville. Look, I like what I've seen out of Trevor Lawrence, especially out of a rookie, especially with a team that has almost no talent surrounding him. A new coach in Urban Meyer, just everything topsy-turvy over in Jacksonville. He's played well, but Jacksonville has a long, long way before they ever come close to competing with a team at the caliber in which the Buffalo Bills are at. And I know I said it against the Dolphins, and Jeff King called me out for it, but you can't look at this game and not think it's going to be grotesque. You cannot think that this game is not going to be just an utter blowout. Look last week, the Seahawks have been bad. Russell Wilson is down. You got Geno Smith starting, and they routed Jacksonville. Seattle's talent level is not even close to the Bills, and you saw what they did against the Jaguars. I can only imagine the possibilities are endless in that department for the Bills this coming weekend. Jacksonville's only win of the year is over in England. So they have yet to win a game on U.S. soil yet this year. And then you got the Jets. They've been a thorn in a couple of really good team sides this year. Their only 2 wins are against 2 teams who are going to be in the AFC playoffs. It's very, very odd. And like I said, it's just one of those storylines of many this year that you just have a really tough time explaining. But I can't for the life of me think that that's going to go in the Jets' favor either time they play. And you just look at the rest of the schedule here, and I think you could argue maybe 2 losses max. That's how I see it. I think the Bills would really have to find a way to slip up against a much, much inferior opponent if they wanted to lose more than that. So you look at that to me, the way things are laid out, it spells 1 seed for Buffalo. And when you look at the talent level of the other teams in the AFC right now, I don't think anybody can argue that any of them are definitively better than Buffalo. And it's just, we have the sample size. Like I said, we're halfway through the season now. Crazy to think about, but it's the reality. And by now we know what teams are and what they're not. And I think right now it's clear and obvious that the Bills should be the favorite to make the Super Bowl out of the AFC. And I think they got the best chance to do it out of any team. So we shall see. It all starts up again this coming Sunday against Jacksonville. 3 straight weeks where I think, here's what I'm hoping. It's going to be a win. It's going to be a win. And, old takes exposed if by the grace of God, a meteor hits the stadium in Jacksonville and the Bills don't win. But I'm looking for excitement this weekend. Back to what I was saying about the Chiefs. You're just looking for that style, that X factor surrounding a win that makes you go, oh man, that was fun. That was entertaining, really gets the morale up, feeling good about what you just saw. And I don't think any of us really felt that against Miami, despite winning by as many points as they did. I'm hoping we feel that this week, take that into the Jets and do the same. And then when you get those tougher games down the stretch, hopefully that carries in. But it starts this Sunday, and that's what I'm looking for. A little bit of style points out of our Buffalo Bills. That's going to do it for this one. I will be back with you again, as always, next Wednesday night to recap that matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Until then, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the game, and as always, go Bills.